You don't pay attention to how weirdly vulnerable you are when brushing your teeth at night. You're half distracted, foamy-mouthed, stuck in front of a mirror, and most of the time you're not really looking at yourself, you're just zoning out. That's what I was doing when it happened. I live alone in a ground-floor apartment on the edge of the city. Small place, cozy, decent rent. It's the kind where you get used to street noise. The occasional yelling match, a stray dog barking, the hum of a train in the distance. You tune it all out. That night had been uneventful. I'd worked late, made pasta, watched something mindless on Netflix. It was close to midnight when I finally got up to start getting ready for bed. The whole place was quiet, just the low hum of my bathroom fan as I clicked on the light and leaned over the sink. Started small. I noticed the shower curtain move. Not dramatically, just a faint sway, like a breeze had pushed it. Now, my bathroom window does let in a draft sometimes. It sticks and doesn't seal all the way, so if the wind is strong enough, it'll push the curtain a bit. It wasn't the first time I'd seen it move like that, so I kept brushing, zoned out, foam building up. My eyes drifted to the mirror again, and this time I saw feet. Not mine, not a reflection, just feet, bare, motionless, beneath the edge of the curtain. At first, I couldn't even process it. My brain told me it was a shadow, an illusion, a trick of the light. But the longer I stared, the clearer it became. There was someone standing in the tub, quiet, still. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just slowly stepped back, toothbrush still in my hand, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I backed out of the bathroom, grabbed my phone from the nightstand, and called the police with the most bizarre, breathless explanation. I told them I thought someone was in my shower. To their credit, they didn't brush me off. The dispatcher stayed on the line, told me to wait outside, to keep my distance. I slipped on a hoodie and shoes, grabbed my keys, and left the apartment without even locking the door. I stood across the street under a flickering streetlight, still foamy-mouthed, still holding the toothbrush. 2 patrol cars showed up 10 minutes later. Lights off, silent. They entered carefully. I watched from the sidewalk, hugging myself, trying not to cry or throw up. One officer eventually came out and waved me over. He told me the bathroom was empty, totally empty. No signs of forced entry. No one hiding behind the curtain. Nothing under the bed, in the closets, or even in the utility cupboard. I was embarrassed, started to apologize. But then he added something. They found my living room window cracked open, curtain torn, flapping in the breeze. And the kicker? One of my kitchen knives was missing from the wooden block on the counter. Just gone. I know I didn't leave that window open. I don't ever open it. It faces the back alley where the dumpsters are, and the lock's kind of old, so I don't trust it. I never open it. And that knife? It was one of the bigger ones. The ones you'd only ever use for carving a roast or something. They think whoever was in my apartment heard me on the phone and slipped out through the living room before the cops arrived. Quietly, while I was standing across the street, just feet away. It still messes with me, knowing someone was in there, watching me, maybe waiting. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't noticed the feet, if I'd just pulled back the curtain. Or worse, if I'd gone to bed and locked the door behind me, thinking I was alone. I've never been a nervous person. I grew up on a farm. I know the sounds of night. You spend enough years in the middle of nowhere and you stop jumping at every creak. But this was different. This was quiet in a way that wasn't right. I moved into the house after my divorce. It was my grandparents' old place, tucked into the hills, surrounded by fields and trees. No streetlights, no neighbors in sight. Felt like starting over. And for a while it was. The first time I heard it, I thought it was an animal. Just soft movement through the grass behind the house, like maybe a deer had wandered close. It was past 2 a.m. I'd been having trouble sleeping, scrolling through my phone in bed. The noise wasn't loud. No snapping branches or banging, just footsteps. And that's what got me. because they sounded like footsteps, not the chaotic shuffle of a raccoon or the four-beat pattern of a deer. It was paced, human, deliberate, but when I looked out the window, the backyard was empty. The motion light didn't turn on. Nothing stirred. I told myself it was a trick of the wind or my imagination. I even laughed it off the next morning. But it happened again the next night. And the next, always between 2 and 3. Always the same gentle, steady crunch of footsteps across the lawn. Never at the door. Never at the windows. Just pacing. I started losing sleep. I'd lie in the dark, holding my breath, waiting for it. And every time, like clockwork, it came. Slow footsteps through the grass, always moving, never stopping. Eventually, I started turning off all the lights and sitting by the window, just watching. I didn't know what I expected to see. Maybe a neighbor messing with me, or some local kid sneaking around for kicks. But the night I finally saw him, everything changed. It was a Tuesday, just after 2:15 a.m. I was sitting on the floor beside the back window, peeking through the blinds. No lights, no phone, just me and the dark. And there he was, a man, alone in my backyard. He wasn't creeping or sneaking. He walked upright, calm, like he belonged there. What struck me most was how intentional his movement was. He walked in perfectly straight lines, up the yard, across, down again, like a machine. It wasn't random. He was mapping something, pacing out a grid. I didn't move. I barely breathed. My heart was racing so fast it hurt. He never looked at the house, never paused, just kept walking his invisible pattern back and forth over and over. I waited until I couldn't see him anymore. Then I called the police. When they arrived, of course, he was gone. They shined flashlights across the yard, checked the trees, even walked the perimeter. No sign of forced entry, no footprints, just flattened grass where someone had clearly walked for a while. The strange part was what they found at the corners of the yard. Each one had a small, deliberate symbol drawn into the grass using salt. For in total, 4 corners, and then one more right at my back door. It was like some kind of boundary, a line I hadn't noticed. One of the officers said it looked ritualistic, but they didn't really know what to make of it. They took photos, scraped up some of the salt, told me to keep my doors locked and call if it happened again. But it hasn't. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard the footsteps since that night, but I also haven't touched the symbols. I let the wind scatter them naturally. I mow around the corners. I keep the back door locked, twice. And some nights, just before 2, I wake up anyway. Not from sound, just from the weight of silence. And I lie there wondering if he's still out there somewhere, marking, measuring, waiting for something. If you're drawn to tales like these, consider subscribing to Spectral for more chilling entries waiting to be uncovered. And if you have your own haunting story that you'd like featured in an upcoming compilation, we'd love to hear it. Just email us at spectralentries@gmail.com. Now, let's get back to the video. You ever notice how every neighborhood has a different kind of quiet? City quiet isn't really quiet. It's sirens and humming power lines and muffled arguments through drywall. Rural quiet is heavy and still, like the land itself is asleep. But suburban quiet, that's the one that gets under my skin. It's like life on mute, perfect lawns, empty sidewalks, porch lights left on just in case someone ever uses them. You think you'd feel safe in a place like that, but I swear, it only takes one off note to make it all feel wrong. This happened last spring. I was house sitting for a friend while he and his girlfriend went to Florida for a week. Well, dog sitting, technically. His beagle, Gravy, needed someone to hang around and make sure she got her meals and walked. The house was nice, clean. One of those copy-paste homes with beige walls and a fenced-in backyard. It was an easy favor. I stocked the fridge, set up my laptop on the kitchen counter, and settled in for a week of work, walks, and bad movies. The first few nights were uneventful. Gravy snored louder than I remembered, but otherwise it was chill. until Friday night. It was around 1:30 a.m. I was up late watching TV, lights low, Gravy snoring on her dog bed. That's when I heard it. 2 knocks. Knock, knock. Clear as day. I froze for a second, waiting to see if it continued. Nothing. The doorbell didn't ring. No sound from the yard. I figured it was just a neighbor or maybe a package dropped off late. Even though that didn't make much sense. I checked the peephole. Nothing. Porch was empty. Weird, but not terrifying. I wrote it off. About 10 minutes later, another knock. Same thing. 2 quick hits. Knock, knock. I checked again. Still no one. I turned on the porch light. Empty. And that's when it started happening more often. Every 15 minutes. Sometimes 10. Sometimes less. Always 2 knocks. Always just as I started to relax again. And every single time, the porch was empty. Gravy would lift her head sometimes, ears twitching, but she never barked, never growled, almost like she couldn't hear it. It started getting under my skin. I checked the ring cam on my phone and rewound the footage. No alerts, no movement, nothing caught. That's when I started to feel watched. I turned off the TV, sat in the dark, waited. 1:55 a.m. Knock, knock. I bolted to the door. Nothing. But this time, I checked the cam footage immediately. And for the first time, it had recorded something. Just a blurry frame. A shape. Could have been a person, but it was gone in seconds. No face. Just motion. I tried to calm down. Told myself it had to be a prank. Maybe some bored teens. Maybe a glitch. But it kept happening. Over and over. 2:14. 2:26. 2:41. Knock, knock. I called the cops. They showed up around 3 a.m. 2 officers, kind but tired. They asked if anyone might have been playing a joke. But I told them I didn't know a single soul in the neighborhood. I was just the dog sitter. I pulled up the Ring app and showed them the saved footage. They watched in silence, then asked to go through the full timeline. And that's when it got strange, because it wasn't just one person. Each recorded knock was a different person. One frame showed a tall man in a hoodie. Another, a woman with long dark hair staring directly into the camera. Another was an old man with cloudy eyes and a limp. Another was a teenage boy, shirtless, covered in dirt. Different people, all looking right into the lens, and then stepping off frame like they just vanished. No one walked up. No one walked away. No sound of footsteps. Just the knock, the stare, then gone. The officers didn't have much to say after that. One of them mumbled something about maybe the footage being glitched, that it could be edited, but they knew it wasn't. You could see it on their faces. They walked the street. No signs of anyone. Told me to call again if it happened. I didn't sleep. Gravy curled up on my feet like she knew something was off. The knocks never came back after that night. But sometimes, late at night, I still check the Ring cam recordings from that week. And every once in a while, I'll pause on one of those still frames, those strange, silent visitors with their blank faces and direct stares. And I wonder, were they really people? And what were they knocking for? Because not once, not one of them ever tried to open the door. They just stood there, watching, waiting,